Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters for Anfield Index. It is the day after the friendly. A trophy? People are seeing it different ways, aren't they, at the moment? We're going to get into the game, all the things we learned, all the things we liked or maybe didn't. We'll be talking about transfers, of course we will, and people might even be made to predict certain things with the season officially starting on Friday. Here to join me as ever is the renowned and the respected David Lynch. And there's been, is the way I'm going to put it to you, David, various takes over yesterday. That's maybe the most diplomatic way I can put it right now.
Yeah. We're back to the knee-jerk reactions, aren't we? Which is fantastic to see. I mean, had Liverpool won that penalty shootout, I'm sure a lot of the judgment on it would have been slightly different, which is just the nature of football. People are so results driven in how they tend to look at things. But for me, I thought positives and negatives to take from it, as there often is. But also, you just have to remember this game for what it is in terms of, it's the Community Shield. Nobody ever goes into it looking absolutely at the best, and yet by the weekend that follows, when the Premier League starts, they tend to be there, or certainly looking a better side. So, that can act as mitigation. I think there were several reasons for mitigation, actually, for the negatives in the performance, but mainly that it was the Community Shield and a lot of positives as well. So, in the end, I thought a draw was a fair result, and then obviously Palace nick it on penalties. Absolutely fair play to them. Great day for them. But I don't think it should be doom and gloom. Excuse me, for Liverpool.
No, not at all. And I do want to talk about some of the positives, and we'll talk about players individually as well. Not always, and maybe people will argue that we struggled later on, which is a fair assessment, but there were times earlier on in this game, especially, link up between players or just all-round play. There were slick attacking moves, weren't there?
Yeah, it's genuinely unbelievable at times, because I thought one of the things I felt was going to suffer with the amount of turnover in the squad was maybe going to be the football at the start, like in terms of the understanding in attacking areas, because that was one of the things you could say, not to do slot down, but that maybe helped him out last season, is that continuity he had in the front line. They all kind of, aside from kind of Gakpo being restored to that left hand side, everyone kind of knew what they were doing, really, didn't they? And all they did with Gakpo there was put him in his most natural position, I suppose. So those understandings were already there, and things that he did tweak to kind of set it up to put Mo Salah in situations to score more frequently. That is something he's very much used to. So you kind of think, and I always think this is maybe the start of any season, really, is that the one thing that you don't see till you're at kind of October is really slick attacking football. But Liverpool were unbelievable at times yesterday. I mean, if you had one criticism, it's that it didn't end up creating as much outright in terms of shots as it maybe should have. I mean, the XG was kind of, I think, around 1. So, given the positions they got themselves into, they should have done a lot better than that. But I still think the moments to get themselves in those positions where they just kind of just missed the shot or whatever were unbelievable, genuinely. Some of the best football we've seen Liverpool play in a long time. So, and I mean, that is serious praise given how good they were at times under Klopp. They were just electric. So I think that was one of the kind of major positives was, what they were doing in attack. And I know we'll go into the individuals of that, but as a team, incredibly impressive in that front, particularly in that first half. And if they can keep that up into the season, teams are going to struggle to live with them.
And you're right. It always is results defined. That'll always be the end and the conclusion that's derived, and everything works back from there. But I mean, when you think back to the game, you think there was that one where Ekitike, I wouldn't say it was a big chance, but he'll be disappointed with that cutback from Wirtz. He probably would have fancied himself to do better. Wirtz as well had that one where he controls it beautifully, then skies it, didn't he, in the second half into the stands. And even that one at the end, Mo Salah, when Kirkes makes a rare run, cuts it back, and you're thinking Mo Salah's just got to put it either side of Henderson, and it's 3-2. There will be chances, and even there's ones I'm not counting there in the first half, where they will look back and think, could have actually had a few more goals on a different day.
Yeah, 100%. In fact, when you kind of list those chances, it makes the XG number seem a bit kind of questionable almost, because, even the Wirtz one in particular, he turns, and I know it's the edge of the box, but he's in so much space that you can almost pass it in, and obviously he just gets that wrong. It's probably the only thing he got wrong all day, but The Gakpo chance at the back stick. I don't know if that actually that's in the first half that kind of gets flagged offside, but still the build-up's incredible. And as you say, the Salah one, they could have won the game there. And I think, if they do win the game then, some of the negativity we've seen about elements of the performance, I just don't think would have been out there, because I think people are so result-orientated that it would have papered over the cracks in that regard. But I think what you should do is just, the positives were there in terms of the build-up and the attacking play. And I just think Liverpool are going to be a major, major attacking threat. They were already the best attacking team in the Premier League last season. There's chances for this to really even step up a level, particularly with potential additions as well. So yeah, really enjoyed watching some of the play going forward. And it did drop off second half, but I think there's a few factors in there, a bit of tiredness, a bit of who they were missing in central areas, a bit of the fact that he didn't have loads on the bench that the manager necessarily trusted. But these aren't issues that you think are going to pour into the season and be long-term problems. So really, really liked a lot of what they did going forward, definitely.
Yeah, and you are right with that people mentioning it as well about Palace, a settled side, didn't make many changes. And you mentioned two players there, because Sam Wildridge asked, do you think Grav and Maka was a big miss? I mean, it was a Bosley Jones. We can't forget that, obviously, McAllister's working his way back to fitness. Congratulations to Ryan Gravenberch and his partner, because obviously they've had a child. But to lose the starters, or the regular starters, maybe it's fair to say, in your double pivot, that's never ideal for this type of game, is it?
No, absolutely. I just think you would have offered Liverpool a lot more control in there. And don't get me wrong, I think Szoboszlai and Curtis Jones are going to play an awful lot of games this season, no question about that. But maybe you would have at least one of McAllister and Gravenberch in alongside them. Maybe that's the way that this midfield mix is going to work out in the end, is that you kind of need one of those two, given just how important they are. And then the other two, they can kind of switch in and come in and out or whatever. It's kind of funny, the comment I keep seeing, there's almost this kind of collective obsession about number sixes at Liverpool and amongst the supporter base that I just find absolutely bizarre, if I'm honest. I don't know if it's, because so many people say it, then it feeds into other people saying it rather than people using their eyes to see what's going on. But I just couldn't, you're getting comments yesterday on my YouTube so frequently about, I think this showed that what Liverpool are lacking is an out-and-out number six. What is Ryan Gravenberch if he is not that, by the way? Like, they missed him yesterday without question, but are we saying that he's not that natural guy who can come back in and play the number six position? Because for me, who was better than him in that role last season? You would struggle to find anyone in Europe, seriously. I mean, in terms of breaking up play, winning duels, using the ball smartly from that position. I think Rodri in his peak is a better player, but he's better than any. He's one of the best to ever do that. Whereas Gravenberch is still very young, but he's right up there, and he is a natural number six. We can't keep saying when Liverpool have a game where things don't quite work for them or it looks a little bit disjointed, oh, a number six will solve this. I just don't agree at all. I mean, it may be in the specific case of yesterday's game, whereby if Gravenberch would have been there, Liverpool probably would have been a bit more secure. But he is a natural number six. We've got to stop pretending that he's not, and that, I've seen Man City with Rodri in the team get overwhelmed in midfield. It happens. You can't keep saying that there's this silver bullet out there who will solve that problem. It won't. Sometimes teams like Palace are good enough to overwhelm you in central areas. And like I say, I think Gravenberch would have helped. But this idea that there's a number six out there who's going to cast him out the team is total nonsense for me, really. I think the problems were kind of a little bit, I think, to go through the problems quickly, I think in midfield, not having McAllister or Gravenberch to start was not helpful. I think then, of course, the options you're able to bring on then are lessened because Gravenberch's not in the starting 11 or in the squad. I think the general they had a few issues with positioning with fullbacks. They were getting hit a bit in transition, which again, you would expect. These are teething problems. Some of the turnover in the squad in terms of organisation. The fact it's that big Wembley pitch is a massive... I don't think I've seen Liverpool play well there ever. And be able to keep things tight in the middle. And the fact that, for me, Palace probably did want it a little bit more. And I think Liverpool's pre-season has been really grueling as well. And I know you list these off and they just sound like excuses, but I just think they're genuine reasons. And I do not think when the Premier League starts that this is, these are going to be long-standing issues. I really don't. I just think it was there were things that went wrong yesterday. And even so, Liverpool could quite easily have won the game in normal time, and they could quite easily have won the penalty shootout, and people would have felt so much better about everything. But that's the nature of football, isn't it? Sometimes so knee-jerk, and some of the things I've seen after it's so kind of negative. It's just, we can't be as results-driven. Let's try collectively as a fan base to not be as results-driven in our analysis next season, because, football is football, and you're going to lose games, and sometimes there will just be reasons for that.
It is, yeah. It is funny the way reactions work. And I suppose that the one thing I like, which I put in there, made me think yesterday, we did come up against a good Palace side. There's no two ways about it. I do like the way they play, and I think Glasner is a brilliant coach. Adam Wharton, I thought he had a good game, and that ball he played for the second goal as well.
Oh.
You've got to sometimes just give it that you are playing quality opposition and players. So that comes into the mix as well. But back to us, because there are, like you said, so many positives. This boy, by the way, I mean, the finish for the goal, there was flicks, there was paces. I mean, I even liked at times he drifted to the left and was chasing defenders, but there was so much to like from Hugo Ekitike's performance yesterday.
Yeah, really, really loved his performance. I think, it's kind of, there's a bit of a spotlight on him at the moment because of the Isak thing that's going on in the background, but I think he's going to play a significant role this season, even if Isak comes in, because, Arne Slot said it to us actually in the embargo section of the press conference on Friday. He was very careful in the way he chose his words because it's a very sensitive subject, but, you've got to account for the fact that Liverpool don't have Jota going into next season, and the idea that, Darwin Núñez has been sold, you don't have Jota, Luis Diaz played so many centre-forward minutes last season. The idea that you go from having those three as your centre-forward options to just one is crazy over a 50-odd game season, and there's easily enough minutes for them. I can't believe that's even up for debate, and what Liverpool have got there is, the ability they had last season to start Jota in some games, who was a fantastic player, start Núñez in some games, who was on his days a fantastic player, a little bit inconsistent, but then Diaz as well, who's a fantastic and important footballer. You need all of them, and to go from three centre forward options to two centre forward options, but the quality just being ramped up a little bit. I think that's the plan for Liverpool, and I think you could see that already. We know how good Isak is, but Ekitike thought phenomenal in several moments of the game yesterday, and the goal, and in fact everything about his play. I mean, one where he nicks the ball from Chris Richards, doesn't he? Drives up the left-hand side and wins a throw-in. I thought, fantastic work rate, great to see that. But you could also see Darwin Núñez doing that, absolutely. What you couldn't see Darwin Núñez doing, I don't think, is, the one where he kind of flicks it round the corner, that first-time pass that gets Wirtz in. The moment for the goal, that Wirtz put so much on that pass. The touch is phenomenal. The second touch is great to get it out of his feet, and then such a delicate finish again. You probably couldn't see Núñez doing that, and I don't want to be overly critical of Núñez. By the way, he was a great servant for Liverpool, and helped them win trophies with some really important moments. But obviously, Liverpool didn't think he was quite there at the level, and they think that Ekitike is. And I think those moments showed the difference between the two. Really, the delicacy of his touch, his ability to link the play. He's just better than Núñez in that regard. I think we can already comfortably say that. So. I think we saw all that evidence yesterday, and I really loved his performance. And I actually think Liverpool became a worse team once he went off the pitch. Actually, they lost that focal point. So really excited to see more of him, and a really great start for him.
Yeah, we've got to like what we're seeing, the pace, the link-up play, and even just, I say, the work rate. There's so many boxes are being ticked from what we've seen. And more than box ticking, Florian Wirtz yesterday. I mean, he doesn't end up on the winning side, but it's fair to say from yesterday what we saw, everything went through this guy, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he just already kind of looks like he's going to be, the kind of vital cog in the attack, which, you're not kind of used to that happening really, where it's just been Mo Salah for so long really, and all of a sudden I think because Wirtz has got that central position, he is just going to be the one that kind of dictates it a little bit more, and going to be more involved in chance creation, as you can see there. Most chances created in the match, but he was just crucial, wasn't he? With every little touch and every involvement, he's just, I keep saying this really, but I already feel like he's definitely going to justify the price tag. He just looks like an absolute genius, and yeah, I thought he was brilliant yesterday. I thought the only, again, I spoke about Ekitike's touch around the first goal, but the pass, the fact he fires it for me is brilliant because the info's on the pass. He's like, take your touch that way, take your touch that way, and you will get a chance to get a shot off. That's, you know, and the brilliant, he's twice involved in the build up to that goal, isn't he? And he's brilliant in both moments, and just, yeah, really, really enjoying his performances so far. And he's already done it now against Premier League opposition. You know, the only thing you would criticise is him not putting that chance away at the end. But what a footballer he is, and I think he's going to be absolutely massive for Liverpool this season.
Yeah, just feel like he's starting to get into it straight away. And his teammate that came from Bayer Leverkusen, it was interesting because people seemed mixed, let's call it that, with Frimpong. So, you know, some down on it, some okay. I mean, let's go for the first bit, the goal. Did he mean it?
No, absolutely not. And you know he didn't. Yeah, just the way he kind of stabs at it, he's obviously trying to just dink it back post, isn't he? And but yeah, you absolutely take one of those, and you've got to be in the position to do that as well. And I thought, you know, pace on the outside, he constantly getting in those positions. He's not, you know, because people talk about his pace, I always worry about like, oh, he's going to be useless on the ball, but he is handy in those positions, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, he gets his head up. He's not a kind of blind alley runner or anything like that. So yeah, I really liked it. He got lucky with the goal, but I like what he did in attacking areas, and yeah, aspects of that performance, I think, you know, really, really, really encouraging, to be honest.
And it shows there on the screen in 4 recoveries and 5 duels won. And he made a good few tackles. One, I think Palace wanted a penalty where it was a great block in there. And also you think to the other week against Bilbao, we did really well against Nico Williams. I think it is fair to say that Frimpong seems to be a better defender than many gave him credit for initially.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing you want to kind of highlight about him really is that I think there will be weaknesses there. I think there's potential. I don't know yet, but you just get this feeling kind of, you know, could he be one of those who switches off the back post a little bit? Or, you know, is he going to be like positioning around the offside line sometimes, just drop, you know, just kind of not being right, not being in line? Because all you hear is that he's not a perfect defender or whatever. I mean, let's judge ourselves, as you say. It's probably not fair to kind of read into that. But I think one thing I can already say, even if that stuff is true or whatever, and we will give him the chance to prove himself in this regard, as we should judge it on its own merits, because, you know, so many things you get told about certain players just end up being absolute nonsense, by the way, and you realise it's a feedback loop on social media rather than people who've actually watched them. But I think what I most liked about yesterday from him, really, and I think what's going to be the biggest difference for him, or difference for Liverpool, is that one thing you're not going to be able to criticise, I think, when he comes off the pitch is his attitude towards his defending. You know, that was the question mark, wasn't it, with Trent Alexander-Arnold? And you saw in some games he came off and you just thought, it's fine that you're going to get turned inside out by a winger. That will happen. The quality level of them, you're going to have a day where that happens. But always be trying to get back in. And I think Frimpong, the effort levels and just the ability to want to be seen, to be trying your best to defend there, looked absolutely brilliant to me. And I think he is already a capable defender. I think if he does switch off from time to time, he's going to have the pace to get himself out of a hole as well. So that will be helpful. But the effort and the willingness is absolutely there. So that, for me, is going to be a step up from Trent to, goodness me, if he can have the impact Trent did over the years he was at Liverpool, we'll be very, very fortunate. But I think, you know, the one area where there could have been improvement is on the defensive application. And Frimpong, I don't think it's going to sell you short in that regard. So that's really good to see that kind of attitude and a slight difference in last year, I think.
And you're right, especially mentioning someone like Trent. It's got to be balanced because, as the stat showed yesterday, on average, Trent had around 70 touches on the ball a game for Liverpool. Frimpong had 30 passes or whatever it was. Of course, he's going to be less, different type of fullback, but that doesn't mean weaker in attack, and it certainly didn't mean weaker in defence yesterday. So there was pleasing aspects for him. I suppose to balance it up on the other side, and Lewis Steele and a few others called this out. So Lewis tweeted there yesterday, too many gaps on the left-hand side of Liverpool's defence. Ismail Assar especially enjoyed those a lot. I mean, it seemed weird, David, yesterday. You buy Milos Kerkez, who is a road runner. He bombs on, he gets the ball in the box. We saw that. And he tucked in quite often, which wasn't really at times in the build-up, the style that he plays. Not that he can't do that all the time. And then on the switch, as we mentioned, Cody Gakpo was covering on the left, who I'm not being funny. He's trying not to be harsh on players. He really did have a good game, though, Cody Gakpo. That left just didn't quite seem to function. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think to be honest, I think it just seemed to me more kind of problems with dealing with a 3-5-2. Like, this is not going to be an issue in most games. It was just kind of the fact that they didn't quite know who's going to be going up against the fullback, the wing backs, I suppose, and that's how you end up with Cody Gakpo getting dragged into those positions and Kirkes tucked in. It just ended up a bit messy, and you'd feel like there's got to be better solutions to that, because and I think one of them, by the way, is probably better pressure on the ball, because it was way too easy for Palace to hit those switches when Liverpool were camped on one side, and then all of a sudden you are asking Cody Gakpo to sprint to cover him because Kirkes is tucked in, and that causes you problems. So I think maybe more of a tactical issue than something that's going to be a massive problem going forward, really. But obviously it's something they'll definitely work on and look at. But yeah, it wasn't quite right in terms of the defensive organisation yesterday. That said, I think, you watch both goals back, and you've got to kind of say that really Van Dijk is just very poor for both, isn't he?
Yeah.
And I mean, how often do we say that? Basically never. So, hopefully that's not a case that he's going to be terrible this season. I'm pretty sure he won't be. I'm pretty sure it's just maybe a case that, he's had illness recently. He's just back in the team.
Yeah.
He's pre-season. These, get your mistakes out of the way almost. But if Van Dijk doesn't make those two mistakes, then Crystal Palace don't score the 2 goals and Liverpool win the game. So, while there were issues in transition and those crossfield passes were catching them out from time to time, it wasn't like Crystal Palace were cutting them open completely consistently or anything like that. I just think, those 2 errors were hugely influential in terms of the game, really, and you just don't expect those from Van Dijk, and I just don't think they will happen again. So, as much as kind of organisation, there will be elements they want to improve. I think they'll also be quite willing, the coaching staff, to say Van Dijk's not going to do that again, and we should be kind of fine. So, again, can't probably read too much into it. If it happens the next 3 or 4 games, then yes, we will, but for me, I just think it's too easy to write off at the moment.
Yeah, especially it wasn't a good day for Virgil at all. Wasn't it a good day for Cody Gakpo? We did get caught a lot on it. Did you notice that, though? Especially the double pivot. They seem to either give it away a lot or sometimes just seem short of options in that balance as well.
Yeah, I think there's going to be kind of some small issues that they'll need to work through in terms of build-up. As the first few games, that's one of the things, because... And this is one of the things he absolutely missed Trent for, is that if you were having any problem getting the ball into the final third, you could just blam it out to your right back, and all of a sudden Mo Salah was in on goal. It was just ridiculous. So you can't replace that. The guy's a freak. He's unique in world football. So, that is something, I think we spoke about that when it was signalled that Trent was leaving, that the build-up is going to be a slight issue, and we worry how they're going to deal with it. What I was encouraged by was kind of the rotations they were using in the first half to get through. Florian Wirtz dropping in sometimes it'd be Ekitike, sometimes he would have Salah in down, coming deep on that right-hand side, and all of a sudden they were in. So they're capable of solving it, but it just kind of stopped working in the second half a little bit. But that's something they're going to have to get used to, because they don't have that cheat code at right back now. So, but that's up to the manager and the players to kind of solve that one. And I saw enough in the first half to make me think that they're going to be able to do it.
I suppose to finish this one for analysis as well, we're almost jumping a little bit into Bournemouth, but it's not necessarily a bad thing to have these issues now, because it just kind of focuses the player's mind, doesn't it? Like, Van Dijk will be wanting to put it right, Gakpo type as well. Arne Slot will be on it this week and thinking, where do I need to move players to? Where was the positioning wrong? Why were Palace getting in? It will just help sort of focus that mind for Bournemouth, won't it? Yeah,
that's it. I mean, I think even if they'd have won, the manager's very kind of, details orientated, isn't he? And I don't think he would have let them get away with some of the mistakes that he made and would have focused on them. But he does hammer it home when it ends in a defeat as well. And I'm very confident that the players will be fine, and it's not any kind of big issues that I'm worried about. And look, that statistic has been out there, hasn't it, about the Community Shield winners once in the last 15 years have gone on and won the Premier League title. And I know people are taking that, that's an omen, that's good news for Liverpool. But beyond it being an omen, really, it's more than that for me. It's kind of, it's what it says about the seriousness with which the favourites tend to take it. And I think back to Liverpool beating Manchester City in the 22-23 Community Shield, and they ended up finishing 20 odd points behind Man City. So, you can't read too much into it. It is a bit of a pre-season friendly. It's not taken as seriously. The sub showed that who Liverpool were missing. The fact that Liverpool haven't got quite a complete squad yet as well. And I just think you get to Friday, I think it's going to be a completely different prospect, really. And Anfield's going to be rocking, and I'm sure we'll see the real Liverpool.